to another episode of Behind the Burger, our podcast with the New Mexico Beef Council. I'm Caroline Romo, and I am here in Fort Sumner with Jimmie Fitzgerald. And Jimmie, will you introduce yourself? And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yes, thank you. Jimmie Fitzgerald, live in Fort Sumner. Grew up in Texas. We moved here a few years ago. I live here with my wife, Sarah, and our kids, Slate and Della. And we farm and have a yearling operation and run cow-calves.
Perfect. And what's kind of the background? Where'd you grow up and how'd you get into this lifestyle?
So I grew up in Jacksboro, Texas. My family always had a cow-calf deal. And then we had a construction business as well. We did that. And so I grew up around equipment, which has helped me a long way in life. As we got older, started doing some calves and started doing that. And then it's getting more populated around there. And everybody's moving out from Fort Worth, and our land values are going through the roof. And so we had to kind of decide, hey, we're going to make a change. And Sarah's dad, unfortunately, got sick. And so kind of opened up a window here. Either they need to get out or take over. So we moved out and bought everything out and took over.
Yeah, and that's been going pretty well. And you guys have the farm, the grow yard, and the ranch.
Yes, he'd always had a ranch and the farm. And whenever we got here, I knew I had to expand because at that time he was still running as well. So we added 2 more ranches, and I expanded the farming operation. And then after we took over, I've just combined them all and built the yard, and it's been a good deal.
Yeah, I think that's something that I always try to explain to people, especially, hopefully we have consumers listening or, people that aren't familiar with agriculture, is that in order for a family business to stay a family business, you have to expand. And so when you have a large operation, it's a survival method, right? In some ways, is you get to feed multiple families. You can't stay, you can't stay small in some ways, right?
Yes. Yeah, we see it a lot. I have a lot of friends that, there's just not a room for them to grow. They stay there and do what they can and fill in and end up starving to death and trying to make it. And then it gets a bad taste in their mouth where they want to go do something else to provide for their family. And then the opportunity does come up where they can go back and they don't have the desire anymore. Yeah. So that's what we did.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's a really neat opportunity that you guys had and great foresight, right?
Yes.
What's the most rewarding part of being a rancher?
Seeing the fruits of your labor, I guess. We start out and we'll have the little baby calves and the kids love it and they get to go and see them. And then, those calves will run through the summer and then, we wean and, hey, they did pretty good this year. And then we bring them in and you don't think they have much upside, and then we'll shape them up and kind of even everything out, go to wheat with them, and they got bigger, and man, they look good, and then you ship them off, and it just feels good because I watched an animal go from conception to 800, 900-pound steer, and it's neat to see that, and the kids, they like watching that, and then the cycle just starts over again, so it's not like you get to see it one time and then move on.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of being able to see it truly in front of your eyes, see the growth and see your business growing or your cattle growing. It's one of the few things where you can see the fruits of your labor in a very physical way, right?
That's it. We bring in calves in our yard, and it's interesting to see, if you don't dedicate your time and spend time with them, well, there's your big death loss. We red pens twice a day, and you say, hey, that was miserable, but look, we did pretty good. We didn't lose very many. So I think that's very interesting.
Oh, absolutely. The animals, that's something too that I always hope the consumer knows is that the amount of time and energy and people that are focused on the well-being of cattle is just unimaginable. The amount of people that have eyes on the cattle and make sure, and even the ways we monitor cattle, sometimes people aren't getting that good of monitoring, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
They all think we're getting rich because they see, oh my goodness, these steers sold for this much money. We'll break it down to how much we made an hour, and it's not very much. No. But we do it because we like it, not because we're going to get rich.
Yeah. And I think even the lights in the feed yard is proof of that, right? I saw you had a light that obviously that means you've had to load cattle in the dark or check cattle in the dark because, it's a 24/7 role in a lot of ways. Talk about New Mexico's landscapes. How does New Mexico's landscapes and climate kind of shape your methods?
So some things I think really help. We're pretty dry, and the grass out here is sure enough stout. So it's a lot different from back home. Our carrying capacity is not as high as it is at home, but our grass is stout, and those calves sure do good on it once it kind of hardens up a little bit, dries out. As far as our landscape, it's hot, but it's not humid. That helps a lot, especially, October National Dead Calf Month seems like, and out here, we don't have it as bad as we did back home. You don't get those 40-degree days or that just wet and drizzle and miserable. And here we just don't have it. So I really like it. Our summers are harder because you get a lot more dust. We're a lot sandier, a lot of dust. So we could kind of fight some lung stuff. But other than that, it's a lot better.
Yeah. So you mentioned carrying capacity, and if a listener doesn't know beef or doesn't know ranching, carrying capacity and stocking rate, that has to do with how many cattle are on the grass or on a acreage at a time, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could explain that better than me.
Yeah, so our carrying capacity, so just say, for example, back home, we're 15, 17 acres of cow, and out here we're 40, 50, 60. A lot of people, just because you can put them out there and they look good for a month, look at the whole year. Don't look at just that 1 month window. And so we're a little more on the conservative side. You can sure eat that grass off and it won't grow back. So I'd rather leave a little feed, and then whenever we go back out in the summer, hey, we've got standing feed from last year. It may not be fresh green growth, but it's something to hold them in case disaster does happen. So we're definitely very cognizant of our carrying stocking rates, and it may change from year to year. This year we're having a really good year. We may load up a little bit more than we normally do, but we're always conservative because what's the rest of the year?
Yeah, and I think you told me at one point, I think it was you, maybe when we were at your branding, is that that you're a grass farmer in a lot of ways, right? You've got to grow the grass.
Yes.
That's the grass is number one priority in a lot of ways.
That's it. You can't feed them through it, and you can't haul water. Those are two things that people think, well, it's getting dry, we just need to start feeding, and we're going to feed and feed. Well, look what feed costs a ton. Put that in to your break even. We run sheets on everything, and we know, hey, sometimes it's better to do something different. That helps a lot, having the farms. We can bring alfalfa hay, number one alfalfa hay. It's going to test really, really high. We'll replace cake with it. We'll haul hay out there, a little bit more time and labor, but it's helping our bottom line. Yeah,
absolutely. And the farm helps with that. So what is maybe one of the biggest challenges you all face in your ranch or your farming?
We're paying for land and we're paying for cows, and it's just pay attention to the bottom line. Don't be scared of hard work. You're going to work your tail off, but it is rewarding. And our hope and goal is that one of these days when we do get older, hey, we can maybe provide our kids with the place that is paid for, that they get a little bit leg up and they can go and do. So I think that would be a hardship that we do. And as you're young, you're not viewed as, everybody here I would say has been pretty good, but you're not always viewed as knowing what you're doing. You're just some young guy and always growing, and that's not going to work. Well, it's working. So I think you just have to kind of sit back and slow roll it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I like to joke with my husband that and even friends that I'm okay with being underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I can be underestimated. We'll work through and work hard and prove ourselves, even if we're just proving it to ourselves. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example of how you care for your cattle to ensure their health and well-being?
So when we brand, we're going to vaccinate all then, and we'll keep a solid eye on them throughout the year. As the grass does different things, you feed different things like that. You'll tell the difference. So there's always a happy line of monitoring them throughout their growth. Once they get to weaning, we give them more shots. We wean all our calves. We don't sell anything off the cow. I have the facilities to do it, so we do that. So we're monitoring them constantly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, hey, we had a lot of trouble this year. Let's change our vaccine program. You don't need to be the person that, this is a good idea or this is a good idea. You kind of need to stay solid in your methods, but I don't think there's anything wrong with looking outside the box. We've tried a couple of different things that have really made the weaning process easier, and you can tell a difference in your gain. And that's the other thing I say is weigh your cattle. You can tell something as simple as half a pound. That's half a pound. You put that across their ranches, and that adds up to a substantial amount of money. So I think just kind of be in tune with what they're doing and what to change.
Yeah, and when you talk about vaccines, some things I think are important to point out for animal health. Vaccines are a really important part of it to prevent disease outbreaks, to prevent illnesses that by using the vaccines we've wiped them out of cattle herds, right? Mm-hmm. And then also an important part is the vaccines are never getting into the beef supply. So the vaccines have withdrawal dates, which require a certain amount of time between giving the vaccine and harvesting the animal, and some of them get out of the system pretty quickly. But anyways, I just wanted to say that for the sake of listeners is that it's a very safe practice and a very well studied, researched, and tested process.
Yes, it is. And we don't implant our calves from growth. We do natural program. We'll sell for that, but I'll punt too. If it looks like these calves are on the bottom end and we're pretty small and we need to put them in the yard and we need to push them a little bit harder, we're not opposed to it. But we try to stay more that route. I'd rather eat a calf that's healthy than a calf that's skin and bones and just a dog-eat sucker. And I don't think as our charged humans, we're supposed to take care of our animals. And I feel like if we just say, well, we're not going to give them that, it hurts my heart to see cattle like that. So I think we're supposed to keep them healthy.
Absolutely. We take our kids to the doctors.
Yes.
We gotta take care of our cattle. And if medicine is required, then we're gonna take care of it. So what's one thing that most people don't know about raising beef in New Mexico?
I would say kind of what we touched on earlier. It's a multifaceted business, and there's a lot to it besides just go to the grocery store and pick you up a steak. I think even it's just the fact of looking at your steaks. There's 15 different things to look for in a steak, and you can pick out your better beef. And I would say research where it comes from. I know that we don't do it, but a lot of people do the whole farm to table thing. And it's neat to see that process. It really teaches you a lot about the industry. I would say if people have questions, ask. Absolutely. There's a lot of, y'all are a great source on providing knowledge to people. I would say reach out if you have questions throughout the whole process. Ask.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're open to questions. And then even too, we recommend people going to your meat counter at your grocery store. If it's a small local grocery store or even a chain, go to the meat counter and ask them. Even at, the big wholesalers, I'll go in and ask them for the best prime rib, and they bring out and they'll show me why it's the best. And I even should know what I'm looking at, right? But I still learn every time I talk to somebody behind a meat counter. That's a great way to ask about your beef too. And then if you want to, talk to a rancher or our organization represents ranchers, we'd be happy to answer questions.
You bet. We're blessed. We have a really good meat place here in town. And I know good and well that they want you to have the best cut of whatever you're looking for. And if there's a way that they can help you get what you want, they sell more beef, you're a happy customer, it's a win-win for everybody. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and people like talking about what they know about and what they're passionate about, right?
Yes,
that's why the podcast is working. But so absolutely go to the meat counter or the meat store. I was gonna say, or like Fort Sumner Processing when they sell. That's your local one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
What is your favorite part of the beef industry?
I think there's very few industries. You could look at farming that involve family. There's places that everybody has a story about going to their granddad's farm or their granddad's ranch, or we used to go help brand, or we used to help go and do that. And we've tried to really push that through our outfit, is bring your kids, bring your family. It's inclusive. But if somebody has trouble, everybody stands together, everybody bonds together. We neighbor on branding stuff, and you can pick up the phone and say, I'm really sorry this happened, and we got a bunch of stuff mixed, and they're going to come help you. And they're going to feed you the best meals you've ever had, and they're going to appreciate it, and they're going to tell you thank you 50 times before you leave because they truly appreciate it. And we'd do the same thing.
Absolutely. I think I agree that there's not many industries or places you can go where you're going to get that family and that community that's just unimaginable. And even the food at a branding. So it's like I'm always trying to beg to get invited to a branding because I know you're going to get fed some sort of great meal. And it's like the college kid in me and just looking for a free meal or something.
That's a fact.
But really it's that community and that romanticism of seeing community and seeing family together.
In the morning, you'll be able to drive somewhere and everybody has their happy place or their peaceful place. And you can't look around and not see God everywhere. And that, this is a creation that we're part of, and it's special. It beats the pookie out of sitting in a traffic jam.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
It's beautiful out there. And I don't know, you see the little calves and you see the kids, and it's special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what a neat thing. There's so many great things. It's even hard to ask the favorite part of the beef industry because getting to live that lifestyle for outside looking in is admirable and inspirational. Why do you do what you do? So every time I ask this question, it's like, I know it's long hours, I know it's long days, but why do you continue to sign up for this, continue to expand and run this business? What makes you keep going?
My kids. I would say that's the short answer, the biggest deal. If we make a little bit of money along the way, that's great. It's going to go to something to further their life. That's all I want. At the end of the day, we work our tail off or whatever. And I think you ask anybody that's in the industry, there might be a handful that say, I do it because I want to get rich. But most everybody is because they want to pass something on to their kids. You can teach them 15 different work ethics whenever you're doing it, and they don't like it, but they know it's part of it. My kids of the day say, I don't want to do that, but I know I have to. And that's exactly right. And that goes through any part of their life, no matter what they're going to do. You may not like it, but you got to do it. And so I think just the future and just family is the reason I do it. That's my drive.
Absolutely. And that's the greatest inspiration is our kids. Is there anything that you would want listeners to know about the beef industry that you haven't already said, or even if you want to talk about your operation more, but just anything?
Kind of our operation, we really didn't talk a whole lot about like what we do, but we farm, we alfalfa, corn and wheat, and they all tie into our ranches. They tie into my yard, they tie into whatever. And if we get a little hay rained on, it may not be a real marketable product, we'll feed it through the yard. We got wheat we turn out on, and then we'll harvest it after that. Our corn, chop for silage. We'll sell some, chop some for silage and put it back. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And I think that rolls on to a lot of different businesses. Just don't think just cookie cutter. This is what you do. You buy your feed, you sell they can interlink and make a better operation in a whole. And so that's what I would say is just don't do everything the way that Granddad did it. Look at kind of maybe outside the box and keep up with your numbers, run your sheets, and maybe it'll be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said it when we weren't recording, or maybe it was yesterday, is the walking the feed off the farm is a great solution that I think that going back to that, because you have the feed, is such a great way. You feed it to the cattle and keep it all in house, and then you suddenly have vertical integration, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think whenever we decided to move out here, I told Sarah we were going to move out here and live the romantic New Mexican lifestyle. And I told her, I'll do anything, but I'm not going to be a farmer. But you can't say that, because there's things you don't want to do, whether it's fixing a water gap on a 1,000,000-acre ranch, or it's shoveling stalls, or mucking stalls, or scooping out bunks. There's things you don't want to do, but they make the operation work. And that's kind of where it's at with my farming. I may be on a horse at daylight, and I may be sitting in a John Deere tractor 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get done. It just takes it all.
Oh, yeah. Well, the older I get, the more I know not to say never, right?
I'll surprise you.
Yeah. You can't say I'll never drive this truck, or you'll never, because anything, things change and we have to adapt. And even as a human, I think not being too good for any job is such a great trait, right? Of just, we got to get our hands dirty and we got to do everything because I'm not too good for anything, right? Yeah.
I think that's important. Like the guys that work with us, we have a phenomenal group of guys, and it's very family oriented, and I hope that we treat them where it's somewhere they want to be at. But, that they'll do anything. No matter what the job is, they'll say, okay, and they'll do it. And you need people like that around you, and it sure makes our life run a lot better.
Absolutely. What would you say about kind of storytelling and talking about what you do? How important is that? I know obviously we're asking you, we might have voluntold you to be on the podcast, but how important is that in this industry of being willing to tell your story, and you were even willing to let the national organization come and get some footage? Why are you willing to put yourself out there?
So I think that ignorance, or not wanting to learn anymore, that's ignorance, is detrimental to us, to any business. Be looking at something else. Now, I may say something here that somebody says, well, shoot, we got 20 acres down in the bottom. We might could grow some feed. Well, that's something they had never thought about. It's a great idea. I love listening to, when I sit in a tractor, I spend many, many hours in a tractor. I listen to podcasts constantly. I can do that, or listen to the radio. I can listen to somebody about their old Chevy truck drinking down by the lake or whatever. Or I can listen to a podcast to somebody that's in business, has had the hardships, has reflected on it, knows, hey, I'd do that different next time. Well, that might take a step of messing up out of my book. So just always try to further your knowledge.
Oh man, being open to learning is great. Admittedly, I wasn't interested in podcasts necessarily. I just knew it was the next thing, and it's great. And it wasn't personally how I got my media. Well, now of course I'm listening to podcasts, and I listened to one recently, and he was talking about building a business and all of the things to protect yourself and all of that, and it was just extremely inspirational. And I realized, I'm missing out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a queue of podcasts now.
In the past, we didn't have podcasts as an avenue. My parents always ran small businesses. I grew up in it. So I learned business aspect from them. If I didn't have them, who would I got it from? I mean, you could watch somebody, but it's hard. It's hard to get started, hard to know the ins and outs of every little thing, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we always say even ranching in any business is multifaceted. The things you'll end up dealing with, you'd never be able to imagine or even explain to someone of all of the facets of it. Even the fact that when we talk about ranching and weather, so you said there's 2.5 inches. We got 2.5 inches of rain last night, and that's something that in my career, in my life, I understand, and we talk about all the time. Sometimes I talk to someone and I ask them, "Oh, what's your annual rainfall where you live?" And they're like, "What? Why would I know that?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It's just a great topic of conversation when you talk to ranchers because it's interesting." And even knowing the rainfall in New Mexico, how diverse it is. You said you get like 15 inches, or you had 15 inches in like 2 months last year, right? That's a really unique thing that you wouldn't realize, that these cowboys riding horses and doing these things. You're also like a scientist and a weatherman and a business person and a CPA and all the things. So I always think it's surprising how much more you have to do.
Mm-hmm. So I had to take a lot of weather classes.
Oh yeah,
or weather stuff because I fly.
Yeah,
and that's been the neatest thing, is to watch weather patterns. I never thought I'd like the weather so much, but that's the other thing I'd tell people is watch the weather. And even not your short term, wake up in the morning, drink your coffee, watch the weather. Look at your long-term forecasts. They're not always going to get it right. Sometimes they say it's going to rain and it's 100 degrees and vice versa. But if you can look, hey, it looks like we may have a wet spring. Well, maybe we hold some heifers back from the fall before. And you can kind of play with that. And it's all long-term forecasting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We at the National Cattlemen's the cattle convention every year, there's the Cattle Facts weather forecast, and that's, I think, the most attended event of the whole week. I think it starts at right at 8 a.m. and everybody is crowding in, standing room only, to listen to the meteorologist talk about that long-term forecast. And his forecast in February was that we'd have a pretty wet monsoon in New Mexico.
Yes.
So far feels that way.
It is, and that's what I was seeing too. I was looking at the fronts, and I thought, I think it may do it. So we took on some extra cows. We took on some extra calves this year, and so far it's working.
Yeah.
Now, if it changes, we'll have to punt. But so far we're good, and that's because we looked at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then being adaptable if it changes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great quality. Okay, so kind of wrapping up at the end, I joke that this is the most important question. Unless you have anything else to add about your operation or just the industry, I can add that.
No, I would say that if I'm far from an expert, but if somebody has a question or something they want to visit about, we're open. And I don't know, I just want everybody to know that. Just, you can get in contact with us, and what we tell you may not be right, but it's something that's worked for us.
Yeah. What I found to be true about ranchers in New Mexico specifically is you always answer the phone. I've called a lot of either our board members for the beef council or cattle growers, anybody, and the amount of times they answer their phone is just surprising to me. And so I have so much respect for that I can ask questions. I even if I'm a stranger calling, I'll call some producers and ask them advice or what they want the beef council to be doing. And the response is, yeah, I've got time for you. Yeah, what do you need? And that's just an incredible quality. So
I think as the beef industry, we operate as a collective.
Yes.
We all sell individual, and you may have got a nickel more than I got on my cattle, and I'm secretly wish I had got better. But, we got a dime more than we were going to get because we did something together or something. So I think just working together is key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All ships rise with the rising tide, right?
Yes.
So then, okay, now I'll get to my last question, and it's, jokingly the most important. What's your favorite way to eat beef?
Okay. So I love a good steak. I'm not always the best at going sitting down at a white linen tablecloth, wear a suit kind of deal, but I love a good steak. I like a good simple steak. We cook a lot of tablitas on the grill, and So you can get your traditional ribs, and they just take and cross-cut these things where they're going to be, 3/8 thick. It's about where we get them cut, and they're phenomenal. And so I throw them on the grill. A lot of people marinate them, nearly like a fajita marinade, and then cook them. But here lately, we haven't been doing that. It's still salt and pepper, throw them on the grill, and there's all our beef we feed. So there's a lot of marbling in that, and they're pretty good. And most people haven't ever had them, and they'll come over and have, well, what is this thing? Because they look like a little bitty thin flank steak or something, but they'll eat it, and then they come back and get more, and then they take leftovers. And then next time you cook, we cook some more tablitas. So that's my favorite.
Oh, that's great. Now that you said that, I think I've eaten that off someone's grill, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the name for it.
We used to just kind of sit around and hang out and rope the dummy or whatever, throw them on the grill and eat them, and you eat them with your fingers, and they're a little messy, and they're good.
That's perfect. And I think it's, anytime you're putting beef on the grill, it's a great way to serve your friends and have some fun.
We have a freezer full of it, and we use it.
Yeah, as you should. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Appreciate your time, and then also appreciate what you do for the industry. I think working to feed the world, and then being open to tell the story, and then also saying you're welcome to questions. Just thank you for that, and again, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yes, ma'am. Enjoyed it.
Thanks. Behind the Burger is a podcast produced by the New Mexico Beef Council with the goal of telling the stories of the cattlemen and cattlewomen of the New Mexico beef industry. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you would like more information, please visit nmbeef.com. Whether it be a burger, a steak, or another beef dish, we hope you are enjoying beef at your next meal.